Most people fear silence, not because it's empty, but because it forces them to confront the truth they've been running from. We talk too much, not because we're confident, but because we're anxious. We over-explain because we want approval. We react too quickly because we're afraid of being misunderstood. And the more noise we make, the more control we lose. But here's the quiet truth. The strongest people in the room are rarely the loudest. They don't rush to defend themselves. They don't beg to be understood. They don't reveal every thought, every emotion, every intention. They use silence the way a warrior uses a shield. Calmly, deliberately, with power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Silence is a lesson in itself." And today, you'll learn why. Because hidden beneath your reactions, beneath your need to respond, explain, and prove yourself, is a strategy no one talks about. A silent strategy that protects your peace, sharpens your mind, and makes people see you differently. If you're ready to master it, comment below. I choose silence. Let's begin. 1. Silence reveals who people truly are. Silence is not passive, and it is never accidental. It is a lens, a quiet, steady lens, that strips away the performances people hide behind. When you stop talking, when you stop filling the space with explanations or reactions, something subtle but powerful happens. People begin to reveal themselves. Most individuals rely on your responses to shape their behavior. They watch how quickly you defend yourself, how eager you are to please, how easily you can be pushed or provoked. Your emotions become their roadmap, your words become their permission slip. But when you withdraw that roadmap, when you stop feeding their expectations, they lose the ability to control the moment. Your silence disrupts their pattern. It forces them to act without the guidance they're used to taking from you. And that's when the truth appears. Those who genuinely respect you will slow down. They will soften their tone. They will listen more carefully. They will treat the silence as a space to reconnect, not an obstacle to overcome. But those who relied on manipulation, pressure, entitlement, or subtle emotional dominance, they don't handle silence well. They become agitated. They repeat themselves. They escalate. They demand a reaction because your calm threatens their control. Think about the last time you chose not to respond immediately to someone who constantly needed attention, validation, or power. Watch how their mask shifted. Watch how their true intentions surfaced. Their discomfort wasn't because you did something wrong. It was because your silence removed their ability to perform. The Stoics understood this deeply. When you stop reacting, you begin to see. Observation becomes your advantage. Silence becomes your filter. It reveals who is patient and who is impulsive, who respects you and who only respects access to you, who values connection and who values control. You don't have to interrogate people to understand them. You don't have to provoke them or test them. All you need to do is step back, fall silent, and let their true nature rise to the surface on its own. 2. Silence protects your energy from emotional hijacking. There is a moment, a split second, when someone tries to pull you into their chaos. A sarcastic comment, a passive-aggressive tone, a sudden shift in mood meant to provoke you. Most people react instantly, without thinking. And in that reaction, they hand over their emotional energy like it belongs to someone else. Silence is what stops that transfer from happening. When you choose silence instead of reacting, you interrupt the cycle of emotional hijacking. You create a barrier, an invisible but undeniable boundary, that keeps your peace where it belongs, in your hands, not theirs. Because here's the truth, people can only control you if they can control your reactions. If they can trigger you, they can steer you. If they can frustrate you, they can distract you. If they can excite you, they can manipulate you. But silence breaks that chain. It sends a quiet message. My emotions are not available for you to play with. This is why the Stoics practiced restraint, not as suppression, but as protection. Epictetus taught that no one can disturb your peace unless you first surrender it, and silence is the moment you choose not to surrender. Think about arguments that spiraled out of nowhere, the ones that drained your entire day. Almost every one of them had a point where silence could have saved your energy, a point where you could have paused, breathed, and observed instead of reacting. Silence gives you space to think. It gives your nervous system time to settle, and it forces the other person to confront their own emotional state instead of using you as a release valve. When you stay silent, their anger has nowhere to hook onto. Their provocation loses power. Their attempt to escalate falls flat. Suddenly, the person who tried to control the moment must face the fact that they cannot control you. This is how silence becomes self-defense, not the kind that retreats, but the kind that stands its ground without wasting a single drop of emotional energy. The world is full of people who want a reaction from you, but very few deserve one. Silence is how you protect the difference. 3. Silence makes you impossible to manipulate. Manipulation depends on one thing: your reaction. If someone can provoke you, guilt-trip you, flatter you, or pressure you into explaining yourself, they can shape your behavior without ever looking like they're doing anything wrong. But silence removes the oxygen that manipulation needs to survive. People who manipulate don't fear confrontation. They fear confusion. They fear losing the script. They fear an outcome they can't control. And nothing creates that fear faster than your calm, steady silence. When you don't react, they don't know what's working. When you don't explain, they don't know what you're thinking. When you don't defend yourself, they don't know where your weak points are. Your silence turns their entire strategy into guesswork. Think about gaslighting, one of the most common forms of manipulation. It only works when you respond emotionally, when you start doubting your memory and rushing to justify yourself. But the moment you fall silent, the moment you simply look at the person without trying to convince them of anything, the power shift is instant. Now they are unsure. Now they stumble. Now they don't know whether the tactic is landing. Silence exposes the fragility behind their confidence. Or consider guilt-tripping. If you really cared, you should have. No one else treats me this way. These lines aren't meant to persuade you. They're meant to corner you. They rely on your instinct to defend your intentions. But when you don't defend, when you simply allow the words to fall flat, the manipulation collapses. Because guilt only works when you pick it up. Stoic philosophy teaches that control begins not with action, but with the refusal to be pulled into someone else's emotional storm. Your silence becomes a declaration: I will not carry what is not mine. And this is why manipulative people eventually pull away from those who respond with calm. They realize you cannot be steered, you cannot be triggered, you cannot be reshaped by pressure. Your silence tells them there is no doorway into your mind, no shortcut into your emotions, no access to your internal world unless you grant it. They may try harder at first, raising their voice, escalating their tactics, pressing your buttons. But the outcome is always the same. Your silence reveals the truth. It was never about understanding you, it was about controlling you. And once you stop giving them a reaction, there is nothing left for them to control. 4. Silence turns chaos into strategy. Most people respond to chaos with more chaos. They rush to defend themselves, rush to explain, rush to fix the moment. And in that rush, they make the situation worse. Not because they're wrong, but because they're reacting faster than they're thinking. Silence changes that. Silence is the pause that separates impulse from intention. It's the space where confusion settles and clarity begins to form. It's the moment when you shift from being overwhelmed by the situation to taking ownership of it. In silence, you regain your ability to see the full picture, not just the emotion of the moment, but the patterns underneath it. You notice what's driving the other person. You notice what's driving you. You notice the part of the problem that doesn't need a response and the part that requires a measured one. When you don't answer immediately, you aren't running from the problem, you're studying it. You're choosing not to be the loudest voice in the room, but the calmest mind. Think about moments of conflict you've experienced, arguments that exploded because both sides reacted too quickly, or situations where a single impulsive sentence changed the entire outcome. You probably remember at least one moment where you wished you had paused, just long enough to think. That pause is silence, and that silence is strategy. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about observing your emotions before acting, treating the mind as a commander rather than a servant. A commander does not rush. A commander does not react blindly. A commander studies the battlefield before stepping onto it. Your silence is that battlefield assessment. It's where you break the momentum of chaos and decide what actually deserves your attention and what does not. Silence gives you the advantage because it forces time to slow down. It pulls you out of the emotional current and sets you on the riverbank, watching clearly instead of drowning. And once you can see clearly, your response becomes intentional. Not emotional, not defensive, not desperate, strategic. You step back into the moment not as someone trying to survive it, but as someone quietly shaping it. This is how silence turns chaos into clarity, and clarity into power. 5. Silence builds unpredictability and respect. People fear what they can predict, but they respect what they cannot. When you speak too quickly, too often, or too emotionally, you become easy to read. And anything that's easy to read becomes easy to influence. Most people reveal far more than they realize. Their insecurities, their intentions, their limits, all spilled into conversations they never needed to have. Their words give others a blueprint of how to treat them. But when you embrace silence, the blueprint disappears. Your silence makes people uncertain, not confused, attentive, not intimidated, cautious, not fearful, respectful. Because when you don't reveal everything, others must approach you more thoughtfully. They choose their words with more care. They pay closer attention to your presence. They take fewer liberties. Mystery is not manipulation. It is simply the absence of unnecessary noise. And in that absence, your presence grows stronger. Think about the people in your life who hold the most authority. The leaders, mentors, or even strangers whose calmness shifts a room. They don't dominate conversations. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't blurt out their every thought. Their restraint makes them magnetic. Because silence gives weight to what is eventually spoken. A person who talks constantly gets ignored. A person who speaks with intention gets remembered. Unpredictability is not about withholding truth. It's about withholding impulsiveness. It's the discipline of not letting others map out your emotions. It's choosing not to react simply because someone expects you to. It's letting them wonder. What are they thinking? What will they say next? Do they see more than they're revealing? That quiet uncertainty commands respect. In relationships, it prevents entitlement. At work, it prevents exploitation. In conflict, it prevents escalation. In social dynamics, it positions you as someone who cannot be taken lightly. Your silence doesn't make you distant. It makes you deliberate. And people respect what is deliberate. Because when your mind is not easy to access, your value becomes harder to dismiss. 6. Silence teaches people how to treat you. There is a quiet truth most people never learn. You're always teaching people how to treat you. Not through your words, but through your silence. Every time you respond, Every time you explain yourself, every time you justify your choices, you are sending signals. Signals about your boundaries, signals about your standards, signals about what you will tolerate and what you won't. And silence is the clearest signal of all, because silence communicates what words can't. It says, I don't owe you access. It says, I don't need to prove anything. It says, your approval is not the currency that defines me. Most people underestimate how powerful this is. They think setting boundaries means giving long speeches, listing rules, defending themselves with logic, or explaining why something hurt them. But boundary setting is not a debate. It's not a negotiation. It's not an emotional presentation where you try to win someone over. A real boundary is a shift in behavior, not a paragraph of justification. And silence is the first step of that shift. When you become quiet where you once over-explained, when you pause where you once reacted instantly, when you offer a calm, short reply instead of an emotional explanation, people feel the difference, even if they don't fully understand it. They sense that something has changed. The access they once had to your emotions is no longer automatic. The privileges they took for granted now have conditions. Your silence becomes the doorway they now have to knock on before entering. And here's the part most people don't want to accept. Some individuals will treat you better once they feel that boundary. Others will treat you worse. Both are revelations. Both are necessary. Because silence doesn't just teach others how to treat you. It exposes who was never willing to treat you right in the first place. Think back on moments when you tried to explain your worth to someone. You told them how you felt. You told them what you needed. You told them why their behavior hurt you. You gave them clarity, honesty, and vulnerability. And yet, nothing changed. Why? Because words cannot fix what someone has no intention of honoring. They don't want your truth. They want your compliance. They want your emotional participation because it benefits them, not because they respect you. But when you go silent, when you no longer react the way you once did, you take away their advantage. Your absence of emotion breaks their expectation. Your lack of reaction forces them to confront their behavior without your guidance. Suddenly, they can no longer pretend they didn't know what they were doing. They can no longer hide behind excuses. They can no longer shape the narrative by pulling a reaction out of you. Your silence becomes a mirror, and that mirror shows them exactly who they are. Some will step back and reflect. Others will step back and reveal their resentment. Either way, you get clarity. This is why the Stoics valued silence as discipline. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of self-respect. A silence that says, I am not available for every argument. I am not responsible for fixing every misunderstanding. I am not here to make you comfortable at the cost of my own peace. It's the silence that removes you from conversations that drain you. It's the silence that ends cycles of emotional dependency. It's the silence that frees you from people who only treat you well when you feed them constant attention. Silence is also how you reclaim your dignity when you've given too much of it away. When you've apologized for things that weren't your fault. When you've explained yourself to people who had no intention of listening. When you've overgiven, overshared, overcared, and ended up exhausted. There is a point where words stop healing, and silence takes over. Because silence changes the dynamic. It tells the other person, if you want access to me, it will require effort, responsibility, and respect. Not convenience, not entitlement, not emotional shortcuts. People begin to realize that your presence is not free. Your peace is not free. Your energy is not free. If they want those parts of you, they must rise to meet the standard your silence sets. And if they can't, or won't, they will naturally drift away. Not because you push them, not because you punish them, but because your silence removed the benefits they were taking for granted. This is not cruelty. This is alignment. Life constantly shows you who belongs with you, Silence simply accelerates the process. It filters your relationships without confrontation. It preserves your emotional resources. It places you back in the seat of control, not through aggression, but through intention. And here's the most important part. Silence teaches you how to treat yourself. It shows you that you do not need to chase clarity. You don't need to force understanding. You don't need to persuade someone to value what they never intended to appreciate. It teaches you to trust your intuition again, to trust your boundaries, to honor your time, your energy, and your inner world. To know that you can walk away without slamming the door and without apologizing for closing it. Silence becomes your standard, and people will rise to that standard, or they won't. Either outcome is an answer. 7. Silence builds inner authority and self-mastery. There is a kind of authority that doesn't need volume, titles, or force. It doesn't need to dominate a room. It doesn't need to prove itself, defend itself, or chase validation. It comes from within, and silence is the soil it grows in. When you learn to hold silence with confidence rather than fear, you begin developing an inner authority that cannot be faked. It's a presence people feel before you say a single word, a groundedness that makes others slow down, listen differently, and approach you with more intention. Because the truth is simple. A person who is at peace with silence is at peace with themselves, and that peace is magnetic. Most people avoid silence because being alone with their thoughts feels uncomfortable. They constantly look for noise, conversations, distractions, opinions, screens, anything to avoid hearing their own mind. And when you fear your inner world, you can't expect others to respect it. Self-mastery begins where noise ends. Silence forces you to confront what's happening inside you, your impulses, your fears, your desires, your patterns, your wounds. And this confrontation is not punishment. It is liberation, because you cannot master what you refuse to face. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius would retreat into moments of silence even during war, not to escape responsibility, but to return to himself, to remember who he was beneath pressure, expectation, and chaos. In silence, he found clarity. In clarity, he found authority. And in authority, he found the ability to lead without being consumed by the storm around him. This is what self-mastery looks like. Not controlling the world, but controlling the world within you. When you stop reacting to everything immediately, you stop being ruled by impulses. When you stop explaining yourself unnecessarily, you stop being ruled by insecurity. When you stop filling silence out of discomfort, you stop being ruled by fear. Your silence becomes a discipline, a training ground for your character. Every moment you choose silence over impulse, you strengthen the part of you that decides rather than reacts. You slowly build a mind that does not panic under pressure, a voice that does not tremble when challenged, and a presence that does not collapse when misunderstood. People feel this shift long before you ever speak it into existence. They sense when someone has emotional gravity. They sense when someone doesn't break easily. They sense when someone isn't seeking approval. Because silence reveals self-trust more loudly than confidence ever could. Think about those rare individuals who walk into a room and instantly command respect. They don't rush. They don't interrupt. They don't try too hard to be liked. Their silence creates a field of focus around them. A quiet authority that says, I am anchored, I am aware, I am not easily moved. This authority is not about being intimidating. It's about being unshakable. When you cultivate this kind of quiet strength, people speak to you differently. They question you less. They argue with you less. They respect your boundaries more naturally. Not because you demand it, but because your presence makes disrespect feel out of place. Silence also teaches you emotional neutrality, the space between a trigger and a reaction where wisdom lives. Instead of being led by old wounds or sudden impulses, You learn to watch your emotions rise, settle, and reshape into clearer understanding. You become the observer of your mind, not the prisoner of it. And from this observation comes inner authority, the kind that allows you to decide your next move intentionally, without pressure, without haste, without fear of what others might think. This is what makes silence so powerful in leadership, relationships, and self-development. It turns you from someone who reacts to life into someone who responds with purpose. It transforms you from someone who needs the world to behave a certain way into someone who can navigate any situation without losing themselves. Authority built from silence cannot be taken away because it wasn't given by anyone else. It came from your discipline, your reflection, your willingness to sit with discomfort, your courage to listen to the parts of yourself that you once tried to silence. And here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more powerful your words become. People listen more carefully. They lean in. They pay attention. Because when someone who is grounded in silence chooses to speak, their words carry intention, not insecurity. They carry clarity, not confusion. They carry weight, not noise. Your voice becomes a tool rather than a reflex. Your presence becomes your language. Your silence becomes your authority. This is the essence of self-mastery, knowing that you do not have to say everything, react to everything, answer everything, or reveal everything. You control what leaves your mind. You control what enters your emotional world. You control how much access others get to your inner life. And that control, that quiet, steady control, is what makes you powerful in a way that cannot be argued with, copied, or broken. Because real authority doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it doesn't rush. Real authority stands quietly and lets the world adjust around it. Silence is more than the absence of words, it is the presence of strength. Across this journey, you've come across 7 parts of a strategy that most people never learn. Silence that truth reveals. Silence that protects your energy. Silence that breaks manipulation. Silence that turns chaos into clarity. Silence that earns respect. Silence that sets boundaries without a single argument. And silence that shapes you into someone unshakable from the inside out. The Stoics understood what modern life often forgets. You cannot control what others say or do, but you can control your reactions, your center, and the space you choose to hold. And in that space, your real power begins. So as you leave this video, remember, you don't need to argue to be understood. You don't need to react to reclaim your worth. You don't need noise to prove your presence. If today's message spoke to you, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And comment below, I choose silence. A small commitment, but one that could change the way you live the rest of your life.